This story comes from classic Japanese folklore, where the Dragon King of the underwater world turns to a human warrior to save his kingdom. A warrior named Tawara Toda was crossing a bridge when he saw something enormous blocking the way, a massive, scaled serpent stretched across the bridge. Most people would have turned back. Tawara Toda did not. He calmly stepped over the creature and continued walking. That was the test. As soon as he passed, the serpent transformed into a man. It was Ryūjin, the Dragon King of the underwater world. He revealed that his kingdom was in danger. Every night, a giant centipede came down from Mount Mikami and threatened the Dragon Palace. The monster was so massive that its body seemed to wrap around the mountain itself. Ryūjin asked Tawara Toda to kill it. Tawara Toda agreed to help. When the centipede appeared, its eyes burned like fire on Mount Mikami, and its countless feet glowed through the darkness. Tawara Toda raised his bow. He had only 3 arrows. The first struck the monster in the head, but glanced off. The second hit the same mark, but failed again. Then Tawara Toda remembered an old belief. Human saliva was deadly to centipedes. He took his final arrow, placed the tip in his mouth, aimed once more, and released it. This time, the arrow struck deep into the monster's head, and the giant centipede finally fell. In return, the Dragon King threw a massive feast at his underwater palace and rewarded him with magical treasures, including a bag of rice that never ran empty. Gozuryū. A 5-headed dragon terrorizes the villages along the coast near what is now Kamakura. For years, it rises from the waters near Kamakura to destroy crops, devour children, and darken the surrounding land with its presence. 5 heads, 5 sets of teeth, each one worse than the last. Then something extraordinary happens. The seabed rises from the water. A goddess named Benzaiten descends from the sky and lands on the newly risen island. Tradition says that the island became what we now know as Enoshima. The 5-headed dragon doesn't attack her. Instead, he fell in love with her. She refuses him immediately. She tells him that he's done nothing to deserve that consideration. His entire history is destruction. Children dead, villages ruined. She will not negotiate with what he currently is. The dragon, therefore, repents. The creature that had been the terror of the coastline submits completely and transforms into its protector. This is the origin of the Enoshima Shrine, one of Japan's famous Benzaiten shrine traditions. Local tradition says that the dragon and Benzaiten are both enshrined there together. Some dragons are defeated by heroes. This one was defeated by shame. Kuzuryū. If 5 heads could terrorize a coastline, imagine what 9 could do. In the mountains of Hakone, Lake Ashi sits inside the caldera of an ancient volcano. The water is deep, the visibility poor, and for centuries, local tradition held that something enormous lived at the bottom. That something was Kuzuryū, the 9-headed dragon, and it had a different kind of hunger. It demanded people. No treasure, no tribute to livestock or grain. The communities around the lake offered human sacrifices, especially young maidens in the strongest local version, to keep it calm. One account described the dragon as poisonous, its presence making the land and water around it feel hostile. 9 heads meant 9 sources of venom, 9 sources of destruction if the offerings stopped. Then a Buddhist priest named Mangan arrived. He came in peace, carrying only Buddhist practice. Through rituals, prayer, and spiritual discipline, Mangan brought the dragon under control. What happened next is the part that makes this story really worth telling. The creature that had consumed human offerings for years didn't die, it was converted as well. It became Kuzuryū Daimyojin, a protective deity associated with rain, prosperity, and harmonious relationships. The Kuzuryū shrine at Lake Ashi still stands today. The monster didn't vanish, it changed its appetite entirely. Kiyohime. The legend of Kiyohime comes from medieval Buddhist folklore, the kind of story told to warn about the dangers of attachment and deception. In the later famous version, a monk named Anshin passes through the region and is hosted during his pilgrimage. Depending on the version, he makes a promise to the young woman there, a promise he never intends to keep. Then he leaves. He does not come back. Kiyohime follows him. She pursues him across land, and when he crosses a river to escape her, the rage inside her starts to take shape. The grief and betrayal are so total, so consuming, that her body starts responding to them physically. She enters the river and begins to change. By the time she reaches the other bank, she's no longer entirely human. Anshin reaches Dojoji Temple and begs the monks to hide him. They lower the enormous temple bell over him, and he believes that the bell will protect him. Kiyohime finds the bell immediately. She coils her serpent body around it. She burns with such concentrated fury that the bell itself burns with impossible heat. Anshin lost his life inside. The metal that was supposed to save him became the instrument of his death. The horror of Kiyohime is not that she was a dragon, it's that she became one. Mizuchi. Mizuchi appears in early Japanese chronicle tradition as a water serpent or dragon inhabiting the Kawashima River. Travelers who came near the water were poisoned and killed. The river had become a place people feared to approach. Then a man named Agatamori decided to confront it. He didn't arrive with a sacred sword or a Buddhist scripture, he brought floating calabashes. Agatamori threw them into the river and challenged Mizuchi to a test. If Mizuchi could sink them, he would withdraw. If the dragon could not, he would kill it. The dragon tried, also transforming into a deer to force the gourds underwater, but failed. That failure became the opening Agatamori needed. He attacked the dragon and killed it, then searched out the other water dragons connected to it and destroyed them as well. The river turned red with blood. Afterward, the place carried the memory of the killing in its name. It became known as Mizuchi's Abyss, a reminder that this was not a dragon of treasure, rain, or royal ancestry. This was a river monster whose presence made the water deadly. Mizuchi shows a darker side of Japanese dragon tradition. Some dragons were worshipped, some were converted. This one had to be removed from the river. Kuraokami, Takaokami. In the ancient creation myths, the fire god Kagutsuchi is born with such destructive heat that his birth fatally burns Izanagi. Izanagi, overcome with rage and grief, draws his sword and cuts down the fire god. But Kagutsuchi's death doesn't end the story. From the blood of the slain fire deity, new kami are born. In the Kojiki, one of those deities is Kuraokami, a dark water deity associated with rain, valleys, and the power of water hidden in deep places. In Nihon Shoki tradition, related versions also preserve Taokami, a high water deity associated with rain and mountain sources. One is the dark water below, one is the water from above. That is why these figures matter in Japanese dragon tradition. They're not monsters, they're not enemies of gods or humans, they're water powers born at the exact moment fire becomes uncontrollable. Later shrine tradition remembers them as rain and water deities, worshipped for the blessing of water, crops, and protection from drought. At places like Kifune Shrine, the water deity remains central to worship even today. They are what appear when divine violence turns fire into water. Zennyo Ryūō. In the 9th century, drought struck the region around Kyoto. Crops were failing, the imperial court was desperate, rain rituals had already been attempted, dragon deities had already been called upon. Still, the sky remained empty. Then the monk Kukai was asked to intervene. Kukai was the founder of Shingon Buddhism and one of the most significant religious figures in Japanese history. He performed rain rites at Shinsen-en, the imperial garden in Kyoto. But in later versions of the legend, there was a reason the earlier rituals had failed. The other dragon gods had been sealed away by a rival monk. Only one remained free, Zennyo Ryūō. Kukai called on her by name. According to the legend, after his prayers, a serpent appeared at Shinsen-en, crowned with a small golden snake. It entered the pond, and soon after, clouds gathered over the capital. Then the rain came. Not just a few drops. Rain fell for 3 days and 3 nights, ending the drought that had terrified the court. She was a rain dragon reached through the right ritual by the right monk at the moment the land needed water most. Toyotama-hime. The story appears in Japan's oldest texts, the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki. A young prince named Hori loses his brother's fishing hook in the ocean and descends to the sea realm to find it. There he meets the daughter of the sea deity Toyotama-hime near a well as she draws water. In the ocean, yes. They fell in love instantly and married. They live beneath the ocean together. Eventually, Hori returns to land, and Toyotama-hime follows him to give birth to their child. Before giving birth, she makes a single, strict request. Build her a private birthing hut and promise to never look inside. But curiosity overcomes the prince. He peeks into the chamber. Inside, he witnesses a creature described by a single mysterious word, wani. Over the centuries, translators have debated its exact meaning, some calling it a crocodile, others a shark, a sea monster, or something closer to a dragon-like being. What the ancient text does not give us is a clear modern image, but one thing is certain. Hori has seen a monstrous form that he was never meant to look upon. Toyotama-hime realizes that he looked. Ashamed and exposed, Toyotama-hime flees back into the ocean depths, abandoning her newborn son. That child, Ugaya Fukiezu, later became the father of Emperor Jimmu. Japan's very first emperor was the grandchild of a dragon sea princess. Now, if you've been paying attention, there is probably one dragon sitting in the back of your head right now. 8 chapters in, and you still haven't heard its name. An 8-headed serpent, 8 valleys wide. Returning viewers, time to rewind, and new viewers, you're about to meet the most famous dragon in Japanese mythology. We're telling this one through the weapon it was hiding, Yamata No Orochi. The storm god Susanoo did not set out to find a weapon. He was searching for redemption. Banished from the heavens for his destructive behavior, Susanoo descended to the province of Izumo, where he found a family of earthly gods weeping at the river's edge. 7 of their 8 daughters had been devoured by Yamata no Orochi, an 8-headed, 8-tailed serpent whose body spanned 8 valleys and 8 peaks. The creature was returning for the last daughter. Susanoo made a bargain. He asked for the daughter's hand in marriage in exchange for the serpent's death. So he transformed her into a comb and placed her into his hair for safekeeping. He instructed the parents to brew 8-fold refined sake and build a fence with 8 gates. Then he set his trap. 8 vats of sake, one positioned at each of the 8 gates. When Orochi arrived, each head drank deeply and fell into a stupor. Then Susanoo drew his blade and cut the serpent apart, head by head, tail by tail. When his sword struck the middle tail, it met something harder than flesh. Inside the body of the serpent lay a sword of divine origin. Susanoo drew the sword free and named it Ame no Murakumo no Tsurugi, the heavenly sword of gathering clouds. Susanoo offered it up to his sister Amaterasu, the sun goddess, as an act of reconciliation. From her hands, it passed down through the divine lineage until it became one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan, a symbol of the emperor's divine descent. It was later renamed Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the grass-cutting sword. Alright everyone, that has been this video. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, and click that bell icon, and join us next time for some very fascinating lore. See you in the next one.